Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. It is a hot Friday morning. Just trying to buckle down. We usually get like late hot weather during our summer seasons. So just dealing with that, but also got plenty of news to discuss for this week. So I'm gonna try to make this quick just because my camera usually cuts out after like 30 minutes of just raw footage. So let's try to get through these pretty quickly, or at least just in a fairly timely manner. So let's just get the ball rolling. So let's start off. So the first we're going to discuss is revolving around Wolves, which is the George Clooney, Brad Pitt action comedy, which is, I believe, set to be released this month, I think. We've talked about it before. It's the film where it was going to have a theatrical window, but then it was dropped in favor of a streaming release instead. And apparently, the actors shed some more light on that while doing press at the Venice Film Festival, which we'll be discussing a little bit here and there throughout this video. Primarily, they shot down some accusations, some misreporting about their salaries, which they said were, according to articles, were like $35 million each for George Clooney and Brad Pitt. George Clooney denied that article, saying that it was actually significantly lower, and more notably, he suggested that he and Brad Pitt gave back a portion of their salaries after deals for a theatrical run fell apart. So I bring this up because when I heard that, I think honestly, and this might be me presuming, but it's just based on information that I know about theatrical deals, I think he's honestly twisting the truth of what's actually happening and trying to represent himself in a particular light so as to not look as greedy as they probably are. Because, first of all, that money that he's likely referring to, the money that he gave back, that was likely a back-end deal, which are in place in negotiations with a theatrical run or set in place if a theatrical run were to occur. Like, they'll make certain money off of the theatrical experience or the theatrical run of that specific film. And that's what a back-end deal essentially falls into. Therefore, if a theatrical run wasn't going to happen, you haven't made any money off said deal, aka that deal has been terminated, you know? So that money that you so graciously gave back was, well, nothing, really. I mean, perhaps maybe they just had certain deals in place that regardless they get a certain amount of money, and that money they decided to give back. But I don't think that's really the case, though. I don't think people would just give you money out before a theatrical run based on a theatrical run in a back-end deal scenario. I just don't think that's anything plausible. But I think that what's actually happened more than likely was that the deal fell through and they didn't lose a cent off of that because they didn't get a chance to profit. And the other point to bring up is that their base salary as both actors and producers is far more compared to the average performer out there. And that just goes without saying because we're talking about, big name stars plus the fact that they're producers. So if I were to guess, they were likely paid in the double-digit range, say like 10, 15 million, and likely have deals in place with the streaming release as producers, because you know that they're doing that currently at the moment. So, which, mind you, the average performer working in Hollywood, aka a nobody, doesn't make or have that kind of power at all. So I believe he's downplaying these reports by presenting, frankly, a false claim to make it seem that they're on the same level, which obviously they're not. And I mean, they wouldn't even settle for those kinds of salaries anyway. They'd never take minimum wage in that profession because they can't afford to make that kind of money because they have all these other things that they have to consider in order to sustain the lifestyle that they have currently. So I think he's just trying to present himself a certain way, like they're on the same page, like, oh, we're on the same level, guys, don't worry. even though it doesn't take too much to understand, comprehend that, yeah, no, you guys are probably making a lot more than you. Yeah, it may not be 35 million, as those reports say, but it's certainly in the double-digit range. Certainly in the double-digit range. So yeah, sorry, not buying what he's saying at all. Just really not buying it at all. So those are my thoughts on that. All right, moving right along, let's get into talking about the summer box office. According to ComScore, which is an analytical group for film, presumably, I'm not sure if they're just generally an analytical group or for this profession specifically, but they did some digging and they looked at the numbers coming out of this year's summer. And according to their numbers, this year's box office was down 10.4% compared to last year. Now, to get more specific, in May, which was not a good month, ticket sales were down nearly 29% compared to last year. But in June, those sales picked back up with the release of Bad Boys Ride or Die and with other major releases that followed, Inside Out 2, Deadpool, all that stuff. I've seen reports on this, and they've suggested that this isn't a big deal, that, 10% off from last year, that's not terrible. I think it's very telling, given that there's no looming factors that may or may not contribute to the general interest of the theatrical experience. Because, firstly, I gotta say, I think that these analysts are way too optimistic, because when you go read their assessments on this year's summer and what they deem successful and not, they seem a bit naive in their assessment. They kind of talk like a person would when they don't want to address the problem, but just kind of circle around that issue. Like they'll tell you these many films did well, when in all actuality, some of those films mentioned proved well, because it's a thing I've talked about ad nauseum. Those old standards that people lived by in 2019, they're gone now. We live in a time now where movies now have a 45-day window, and or stretched out depending on the trajectory of that film, or dropped completely. Ask Borderlands, where they were a week or two after its theatrical release. So trust me, like that 2 times measurement, it has to be greater now. Movies have to perform greater than that, which is why I generally say that films should do like 3 times a measurement, and especially if now, like these numbers, I think just kind of also proves that point where movies should be doing a lot more in order to sustain and to make the investments worthwhile, Now, I'm going to be doing a big video coming regarding the summer in film, so I'll be doing my own analysis very soon, so look out for that video when it comes out. But generally speaking, I've said before, it was a disappointing summer, and I can agree that it wasn't a disastrous summer, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that it was good either. So I just think that people need to get a grip and understand that those old standards, they just don't apply anymore. They just don't jive with the current landscape and current market in film and how much, studios need in order to sustain their investments nowadays. It's just not the same. So. Okay, speaking of investments, let's get into a kind of a controversial topic here. We're going to talk about The Apprentice. This is a Donald Trump biopic, which we've talked about before, where there was a cease and desist letter that was delivered from Trump's campaign to this film, forbidding the movie to be released, or he'll be, suing the production. Obviously, nothing happened with that, because if you kind of look into it, Trump doesn't necessarily sue. He just kind of gives a lot of empty threats, essentially. But it looks like there's some pushback on the release of The Apprentice, as there is an incredibly odd move that was made on the release of this film, which is that they are launching a Kickstarter with the hopes to expand its theatrical window / distribution. So if you go to the Kickstarter, you can pledge, for certain things here and there, but just to name two specifically, if you pledge $25, you can receive a copy to stream after the movie hits theaters. For a pledge of $100, you'll receive a mention in the credits, so you'll just get a little name mention. And any higher pledges will put you in a raffle to secure props, I think Trump's hair, Sebastian Stan, what he wears in the film. I think that's up for grabs, and tickets to the premiere in New York City. So, and to bring up another interesting development outside of the Kickstarter regarding the production of The Apprentice, one of its financiers, Keen Matix, has sold off their stake due to, quote, creative differences, though this is attributed to the fact that the owner, Dan Schneider, who is a Trump supporter, he apparently was not very happy with the depictions in the film, aka an investor/producer wasn't happy on what he believed was disclosed and discussed, which is liable, honestly, for getting sued if you actually did deceive your investors, and Dan Snyder is one of them. Money's on the table. So it's yeah, you can't deceive your investors. So that's liable for getting sued. So perhaps that's maybe a reason why he stepped off. I don't know. But all of this basically screams that distribution for this film is going to be limited. But they want to make it a more worthwhile investment. So that's why this Kickstarter is out there, because they're trying to get more attention for the film and hoping that they can get more auditoriums, more places to show the film. So it seems like it's going to be extremely limited, though, in terms of the release of this film. I will tell you that they're already killing their chances by having a pledge that gives you access to the movie online. You essentially just pay the same amount that you would for a movie ticket just to stream the movie. I mean, why would I care to seek it out in theaters in the limited places that it'll likely be in when I can just pay the same amount of money it'd be to watch it in theaters to watch it at the comfort of my home? I mean, don't give people that idea if it works against itself. In any case, that's just a terrible thing to put up, because that's just gonna completely derail the whole point of the Kickstarter, But in any case, though, it just speaks to me that the film won't be a big release, which is both honestly fair and understandable, regardless of the political motives. I mean, if you didn't get his approval or deceive, or if you did deceive anybody, then they have the right to sue and to stop the release, or at least to stop the quantity of that release. I mean, it's all about power at this point. It's about who's got the more powerful lawyers, and clearly it's not the film, which is why they're having such a limited release, and why they're resulting to things like this, because they probably have lawyers or other people telling them, hey, don't try to put this out on a big market. You can make it small, but not as big, because it's also, of course there's political motivations behind it, because we're in election season. So, but yeah, I think that this, just specifically talking about the Kickstarter, I think it's a poor judgment, and that specific pledge, that $25 pledge, that is definitely going to kill them. That's definitely going to kill the entire point of the Kickstarter. Shouldn't have been there to begin with, if you ask me. So. All right, off to our next topic. Sorry if you hear some noise in the background, just vacuuming going on. Let's get into Joker 2. Joker Folie à Deux had its world premiere at Venice Film Festival and came to some fairly mixed reception. Some people liking it. I assume it's just people kind of running off the high of being there. And people who have more fair assessments of things being a little bit more lukewarm on it. Now, with the release, there's been some press junkets and some interviews taken, and according to some interviews, there was a rather unusual production that was made when creating Joker 2, very similar to the original Joker. specifically in the constant rewriting of the shooting script that was requested by Joaquin Phoenix. According to the cast and crew, namely Lady Gaga and director Todd Phillips, which she, by the way, referred to this process, this rewriting of stuff, as liberating. So just so you get the mindset of these people, they said that the script would be set to go, so that they're something that was already agreed upon, and they have a vision that they're, ready to shoot on that day. Until Joaquin Phoenix comes along, or at least when they present the script to him in his trailer, which already tells me that they constantly were doing this, because it's like Joaquin Phoenix should already be aware of what the script is, you know what I mean? He should already be aware of what's literally being developed that day, or what we're shooting today, he should already be aware of that. But, that just kind of illustrates how often that this occurrence happened, but if you ask me. But they would go sit down with Joaquin Phoenix, and he would make a handful of suggestions, which would have them discussing and rewriting for nearly 3 hours at a time, according to Todd Phillips himself. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. This is apparently a thing with Joaquin Phoenix, because according to Ridley Scott, who worked with him recently on Napoleon, apparently similar requests from the actor were made, and the script was, quote, entirely rewritten to make the actor more comfortable. So, once again, similar to my feelings on the issues that plagued It Ends With Us, which we discussed revolving around Blake Lively and her just kind of dominance on that set, I kind of have similar feelings about that, or similar feelings on this that I did with that. Unless they're producers, and I presume this time around Joaquin might have been a producer, I'm not entirely sure. But unless they're producers and they're actively involved in the script writing stages, which I don't believe Joaquin was, their opinion should not be given such attention to where it begins dictating and changing the agreement between the studio and the director, because people have to understand that whatever is written in a big production like this, it can't just be changed on the fly. Like, we're not talking about an indie here. Especially, the original Joker, I can maybe see where you can have that room to move around, because that film was only a $50-60 million investment. This is a $200 million investment. So we're talking about a major tentpole here compared to that original film, which was done for a little bit for dirt cheap compared to how usually superhero films are, how much they get for those sort of films, budget-wise. So you can't just be loosey-goosey about it. Like, there's an agreement that is made between Warner Brothers and Todd Phillips and executives, all these people. For an actor to come in and just do what they want, that you're giving them the impression that they have power. It's the intimidation factor, And in this case, it appears it was really the fault of Todd Phillips not reining in Joaquin, or honestly really caring of doing so, frankly, because given how the original Joker was conceived, you could see, it's the artsy attitude where it's like, well, as Lady Gaga put it, it's a liberating process. So probably Todd Phillips has a similar mindset, so they don't see it as a problem, but it is inherently a problem, and see, the difference with something like the Todd Haynes film that people were talking about, because also Joaquin was kind of disregarding any discussion on that, which I think also illustrates a lot about the creative differences on that front. The differences with that, though, is that the difference with him leaving that project and his involvement in this is that, in that respect, he helped develop the script, and he was actively involved in developing the film. So there, it's completely understandable for his voice to be given priority over others, and why he may leave if it's not something that he feels is of the vision that he was developing, if it was kind of getting away from what he was wanting out of it. Here, he's just the performer. He's just the actor. People came in with a script came his way, he looked at it, and he liked it, and he signed off on it, and now he's, working on it. So I'm not saying he shouldn't be silent, but just be more considerate and self-aware in your position, because this isn't your movie. So don't come in and behave like you can work that way. You have to collaborate with the intention to help his vision and not create your own vision. If you want your own vision, go make your own movie, because that's how this works here. This is how the business works, especially when you're having to juggle $200 million. So it's a different investment now compared to that original film. So they may not see it as an issue because of just the artistry, but it is inherently an issue when you talk about operating in production. Actors should not be acting like this at all. It's not a good way of. It's not a healthy collaboration. It's rather toxic, if you ask me. So we'll see how the product comes out. I've heard just not great things, but we'll see. Maybe it comes out great. But I would not be surprised if there were some issues, given how both the original and this have been produced and conceived. Because I've had issues with the original one, so who knows? Hopefully it doesn't fall in the same pattern. Hopefully I like it, but that remains to be seen. So, all right. In a breaking news story, I just read this, but I just finished the news roundup and just saw this pop up. So, I want to address this real quick. So we all know that the Rust trial ended a couple months ago, and if you ask me, it ended quite abruptly. There was some evidence that was found that perhaps was not disclosed to the defense properly, and the judge, instead of even though she herself set up the parameters of this trial in a pre-trial meeting and everybody knew what was up, instead of just calling foul on it or whatever like that, she just threw out the case entirely. Now, prosecution since then has been trying to revive the case by arguing that the judge made an error in that assessment, which I agree. There was definitely an error in that assessment. Carrie Morissi, I think that's her name, how you say her name, who was the prosecutor on that case, she argued that because she came to the court with a motion, and she argued that the judge made an error when she dismissed the case with prejudice during Baldwin's trial in July, and apparently the judge dismissed the motion not due to the grounds of the assessment or the criticisms or whatever like that. Not anything like that. It's because the page limit has been exceeded. It exceeds the 10-page limit. Let me read this to you guys. So, yeah, this is from Variety. In a 52-page motion filed August 30th, the prosecution argued that the bullets had no relevance to the case, which she is correct, because if it wasn't laid out in the pretrial meeting, then obviously they can't bring it up in the actual trial, and that they did not undermine Baldwin's guilt. The prosecution also indicated that the state may appeal the judge's dismissal to a higher court. And the judge did not rule on the substance of the prosecution's motion, aka not on the validity of her claim. Instead, she found that it violated the court's procedural rules about page length. The court noted that the motion also came with 387 pages of exhibits. And this is what the judge had to say about that. Given the procedural posture of the case, the court must enforce the local rule to regulate the court's docket and promote judicial efficiency. So, just to get you guys up to speed again, this judge got rid of this case because of a issue of evidence that was made during the trial. So now this judge is denying this motion not on the grounds of what is literally being presented in the same case as what those bullets were. Or in the case of those bullets, it's like the presentation of those bullets was not relevant because of the fact that the case made it so that that piece of evidence was not needed, or evidence was not meant to be disclosed between each party. You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, then everybody knows what everybody is going to say. Hence, you defeat the whole point of a trial. You know what I mean? If you're trying to create two sides of a story, two arguments, you know. So they didn't have to disclose the fact that those bullets were with them. You get what I'm saying? They didn't have to do that. But that's what the judge was like, in her weird thinking, thought, oh, well, we need to get rid of the whole case because you didn't tell them, even though you don't have to. But now here we are with a motion, and this motion, mind you, she's not denying what the prosecution's saying. She's not denying that. What she's denying is the page limit. Really think about that. I mean, yes, there's ethics. Yes, there's rules. But come on. Come on. You know what I mean? If she had issues with what she was saying, she would say it, regardless of the page length. And then she would mention that, yeah, this exceeds our limit. But no, she hasn't denied anything. All she did was just say, hey, too many pages. You know what I mean? Too many pages. That's all it is. But what about what's actually written? You have issues with that? No. It's just too many pages. I mean, really? Really? So, yeah. Just remember, guys, this case was tossed because of a ethics issue. You know? A procedural issue. It was not an issue of, oh, well, Baldwin is actually innocent or whatever like that. No. They never proved Baldwin was innocent. They never did. There's plenty of evidence up to that point to suggest that Baldwin was guilty, but they never actually proved that Baldwin was innocent. It was never actually proved in court. So, just remember that. There's a murderer out there still. He's still out there. And he is guilty. And yeah, hopefully this case gets brought back up again, and hopefully we get a better judge, because this judge just does not know what she's doing. I have to believe that there's some inside job going on, because it's like, yeah, something's not going on here. There's a misstep here, especially with the judge. So we'll see how this plays out, but yeah, this case was tossed very abruptly, and the prosecution has, I think, all the right. They're in the right on this one. And the judge, I just don't know where her head's at. So, yeah, very, very weird, very, very weird, and didn't deny anything of what she presented to the judge today. Just too many pages. Remember that. What you're saying, can't comment on that. But you got too many pages. Too many pages. Just too many pages. So there you have that. Alrighty, we got a couple of trailers to get through, and I got 10 minutes left on my recorder, so I'm going to try to get through these quick. So let's get into this. So the first trailer I want to discuss is for a movie called 2073. This stars Samantha Morton, Naomi Acne, and Hector Hewer. Being directed by Asif Kapadia, who has notably directed a film called Amy. And this is I guess you could say, a piece of docu-fiction where they're fusing narrative elements, which is why we have these actors involved, and real footage from news outlets. So it's, combining these two to create some kind of social commentary and a blend between the two. Docu-fiction, I guess you could say, which I don't know if I just said that, but because they're saying it's like it's a genre bending type thing. So it's like kind of label it as docufiction in a way, I guess, because my issues with this is that it may believe to be inventive, but it seems actually pretty convoluted, because the feeling that I get is that the concern, very much so, especially when watching the trailer, is to push a political statement and to cram it into the parameters of a fictionalized world without much care for imagination and fusing those political optics into it, but rather distance these elements as much as possible. That seems to be what's happening here. It's like we want to just create a world, but we also want to have a message, but at the same time, we just want to distance the fictionalized elements as much as possible, In other words, it cares more for statements than ideas. And I didn't find it compelling. I really didn't find it compelling as much as I frankly see a piece of propaganda. And I don't mean that I'm rooting against the message. It's to say that the delivery within cinematic language kind of matches the definition of propaganda. And I just don't think that that's suitable. I really don't. So what might believe to be inventive, I think, is actually fairly convoluted, if you ask me. So, all right. Next trailer we're going to discuss is called Nightbitch. Yes, you've heard it correctly. Nightbitch. This is starring Amy Adams and Scott McNairy, being written and directed by Morel Heller. I believe that's how you say her name. She is known for directing a few films, such as Can You Ever Forgive Me? And most recently, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks, which I actually enjoyed. I've never seen Can You Ever Forgive Me? But I have seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and that one was good. Has a release date for December 2024 in a limited run. Probably will have expansion in January 2025. No release date for 2073, by the way. Just forgot to mention. But I really think that the exaggeration and the lack of sincerity really hinders the potential in this exploration of psychology, because it's boiling down to a woman thinking that she's a dog, right? And that she thinks she's transforming into a dog, right? Which sounds like they're kind of like a spin on An American Werewolf in London, except with doggies, But I just feel like the approach is rather hindering in the exploration of psychology. I read a comment saying that the book is apparently, because this is based off a book, apparently it's a lot more darker compared to what was shown. And I think that the material is prime for something more sinister and frankly very nerving, if you ask me. But instead, it looks like they're looking for laughs within the absurdity. And that's not entirely a bad motivator, but I just wish it took itself a little bit more seriously, rather than looking to have an intriguing approach on what is frankly liberation and womanhood. I mean, that's the illustration that they're trying to make with these dogs, It's really obvious, what the ideas are. It comes across more campy and silly than intriguing, So yeah, I'm not really interested. I would have been if it took itself a little more seriously, but yeah, hopefully it's just a trailer, but I have doubts that it's that. So, all right. Next trailer we're going to discuss, speaking actually of werewolf type pictures, let's get into the originator of that, Wolfman. The Wolfman trailer just came out today being Friday. This is the teaser for the upcoming Wolfman, I guess, reassessment or just redo. I don't know what the phrase is, but they're taking another crack at the Wolfman from Blumhouse. It stars Christopher Abbott and Julia Gardner, being co-written and directed by Leigh Whannell. If that name sounds familiar, he is the guy behind The Invisible Man, the most recent one, which I actually quite enjoyed, and behind Upgrade as well. This has a release date of January 17th, 2025, and it's a teaser, so it's a little small bite-sized thing. And as far as what was shown, it's kind of hard to gauge if what I'm viewing is good or not. As far as what I'm literally being shown, just in the framing, just the aesthetic of it, gotta say it reminds me of that Kit Harington film that just came out not too long ago. It's not really a great look. I'm still remaining optimistic due to who's behind the camera, because I like Invisible Man. So, and apparently this was supposed to be directed by Derek Sheriff. I forgot his name, but guy who did Place Beyond the Pines, as well as that really great show. I Know This Much Is True with Mark Ruffalo and Blue Valentine, more notably. He was supposed to work on it with Ryan Gosling. He was supposed to be the Wolfman, but that fell apart. So now we have these guys taking on Wolfman. So we'll see how it goes. I remain optimistic, mainly just kind of reserving judgment. But I do express concern for its general quality. But we'll just have to wait and see. So. All right, last trailer we're going to discuss quickly, because just we're starting to get a little busy here. In the house, I mean, just stuff, we're just getting busy. Let's talk about a Minecraft movie. Not the Minecraft movie, which someone pointed out online, which I thought was a funny little comment that was put online, saying that this is called a Minecraft movie, so that later on we can get the Minecraft movie, you know what I mean? This stars Jason Momoa, Jack Black, and Jennifer Coolidge, and this is being directed by Jared Hess, who most notably directed Napoleon Dynamite, as well as Nacho Libre. And this has a release date for April 4th, 2025, so it's kind of a ways out, but yeah, I'm not interested in the source material. I just really don't care for video games too much, so this kind of already has me disinterested because I'm not interested in Minecraft as it is. Gotta say, though, it's not as bad as it could be. I mean, perhaps it's just damning with faint praise, and probably more footage of this is probably going to diminish my current feeling. But as it stands, from what was shown, I don't hate it. I mean, visually, it's kind of neat. Like the game itself, it definitely looks, kind of neat. Though, it is definitely distracting. I definitely agree. It definitely is distracting, as there is way too much green screen work. Because the issue that I have with this already is that I don't think that it's in the right medium. I think that they should have just gone for complete animation, because the framing of it, like the production itself, is already 5% animation. So, and the reason for it is because, one, the material completely lends itself to that over the limitations of the live action medium. And two, the more I look at the trailer, the more I start not to like it. The more I look at it, the more it kind of reminds me of something off of Nickelodeon. Which is funny, because this director did direct a Nickelodeon film in Nacho Libre. So it kind of validates my overall feeling in that regard. But it looks to be using Jumanji as a template, in that the characters get transported into the game/world. So I'm very vanilla on it. I mean, I'm pretty sure gamers are not enthused. I've seen some responses online, and people don't seem to be that too happy about it. It's not the worst, but it definitely can get worse. Maybe with another trailer, I might start to hate it more, not like it. But if Jason Momoa's look, I will say, if that look is an indication of what's to come, I will be worried, because my God, does that look bad? It's not. I know, I get it. It's supposed to be a humorous thing, but it just doesn't look good on him at all. I heard that Jason Momoa was supposed to play Steve, Jack Black's part, and I could see Jack Black being. It seems like Jason Momoa is playing Jack Black's part, and Jack Black is playing Jason Momoa's part. You get what I'm saying? It feels like those two were miscast. I feel like if you switch those two around, it would work a little bit better. And if the whole thing was animated, I feel, generally speaking, it would work better. But For now, I'm going to, similar with the Wolfman, I'm going to reserve judgment until I see more. But I definitely agree that it should have gone for animation over live action. It just 95% of it is already animation, so you should have gone for that anyway. But I'm going to hold off until I see more footage to make a better assessment on this. Because who knows, maybe the next trailer comes out and it looks a lot better. But for now, I'm not hating it. But that's, that's kind of damning with faint praise. So, but yeah, those are all of my thoughts for this week, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had a lot of topics for today, talking about Wolfman, Joker 2, Minecraft, Donald Trump biopic. You guys want to know your thoughts on all these topics in the comment section below. And sorry if you saw hear any noises throughout. It's just hot and it's busy today. It's Friday, so it's usually the busiest day here in the house. But let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.